Happy and healthy altitudes to you. My name is Alex Burgess. I'm a registered dietitian, and today I've got another nutritious and delicious recipe for you. So today I will be making a tofu and veggie noodle bowl with a creamy peanut sauce that goes on top. I love this recipe. It's one of my go-to meals for lunch especially, but really any time of day, it's great. This noodle bowl has a lot of different great veggies and just other ingredients that make it really flavorful. And the best part is it can be vegetarian and even vegan if that's what you like to eat. But you can also always add additional ingredients. If you have to have some meat with your meal, then you can always throw some grilled chicken on top. That would taste just as good. But today I'm going to show you how to make it with tofu and some veggies. So keep on watching. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with this noodle bowl. There's a few different components that go into this. So we've got the noodles, then we've got some of the toppings that I want to throw on there, including the tofu and the vegetables, and then finally we've got our peanut sauce. So the way I like to cook is I like to have everything kind of prepared in advance in terms of the ingredients. So for me today, that's going to look like getting the tofu ready, the bell peppers that I'm going to put on top, and then the ginger for my sauce. So anything that involves kind of prep work like chopping veggies, I like to do that ahead of time, or at least as the first step when I'm making a recipe, just because it seems to save me time and it's just a little more organized for me. But you can make stuff however you want, of course, when you're at home. But that's how I'm going to do it in this video today. So I'm going to start with my bell pepper. I actually learned from watching like a Gordon Ramsay video that if you cut off the stem, it makes, as you would guess, a flat surface on the top. And apparently, if you cut peppers upside down with that stem portion on the bottom on the board, that can help you slice it a little better and avoid all those seeds getting everywhere. So that's how I've cut my bell peppers ever since. So I thought that was very interesting. Now I'm just gonna probably cut off just one kind of edge, if you'd say that, one big slice here, and save the rest for another recipe, just because this recipe itself for the noodle bowl only makes about 2 servings. So this will definitely be plenty of vegetables or bell peppers for 2 people. And now I'm just gonna go, keeping my knife always touching the cutting board at all times, just kind of using a rocking motion to thinly slice the bell pepper. So I'm just gonna do that. Now bell pepper is a lovely ingredient. It's usually got a little bit of sweetness, especially the red ones. Of course, the green bell peppers aren't quite as sweet. I feel like red ones are usually the sweetest, and that's probably because they're the ripest. That would make sense. So they add a really bright sweetness, and they're also high in vitamin C, which normally I associate with citrus, so like oranges or lemons, limes, anything like that. But bell peppers are actually known for being really high in vitamin C as well. So that's great for the immune system and great for a lot of other just basic functions in our bodies. So love cooking with bell peppers, especially when they're in season and they're really fresh. So I've got my bell pepper sliced, really easy. Then today I'm also going to be topping my bowl with some carrots, and I just went ahead and bought kind of the cheap version, just some shredded carrots. Saves me some time because, you know, chopping carrots really finely can take a little bit of time. And then I also just got some snow peas. I saw those at the store and was inspired, thought I would throw that on top. So that's what I've got for my veggies. Then in terms of the tofu, actually, you know what, before I do that, I'm gonna cut up this ginger. So I just got maybe 2-3 inches long of this ginger root here. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that in half because I don't think I want quite that much ginger. So really, I think about an inch, inch and a half length of your ginger root will be plenty. And I'm gonna go ahead and slice off the outer part, the skin, I guess you would call it, because we don't want that. It's gonna be a little too fibrous, but this ginger is gonna go in our sauce. So just kind of cutting around the edges as you would with anything like melon or pineapple, anything that you don't want to eat the skin with. And then once I've got that cut off, I'm just gonna kind of mince this. So first off, again, I've got my flat surface. Actually, you know what? That's probably a better surface. No, that works. I'm going to slice this somewhat thin into kind of rectangles here, and then I'm gonna lay those each flat and cut them again lengthwise. And then finally, I'll cut one more time going crosswise, I guess. And so really we're just mincing up the ginger. Get that going there. And ginger is a really flavorful ingredient. It also is supposed to have some benefits on the immune system. So I love cooking with ginger whenever I'm cooking anything that you would find in an Asian country, really. I feel like that's probably the style of cooking that ginger is most common in. So I've got that minced up. I'm just gonna transfer it to a little bowl here, but I will be using that in my sauce in a little bit. So that is good to go. And then finally, now we can move on to the tofu. So I've got everything cut up that needs to be chopped up, move my cutting board and everything out of the way. And then I've got my lovely plate here. So the thing with tofu is it can taste pretty plain. On its own, it's just not my favorite ingredient. It doesn't really taste like anything, but it really is a great source of plant-based protein. So I want to incorporate tofu into my diet, but I'm like, man, this tastes gross. So my solution from what I've learned from other people is you have to first press the liquid out of it and then put it in something else like a marinade and allow it to soak up that flavor. So what I've got here is 2 paper towels and then a larger towel. I'm gonna lay one down, throw my tofu just right down in the middle of that. I did drain the liquid out of the package just because it comes in a lot of liquid. And then putting my other paper towel down there, I'm gonna flip this over and then I'm just gonna throw on like a pan and maybe some cans, just something really heavy to press the tofu down. Leave it for 5 to 10 minutes, allowing that liquid to drain out and it'll soak up into the towel and out of the tofu. Then I'll come back, chop it up and marinate it, and then it'll be good to go. In terms of a marinade, I like to use just basic soy sauce, or in this case, tamari. If you didn't know, soy sauce is not gluten-free. I am gluten-free, so my solution is tamari sauce. It's just a gluten-free substitute for soy sauce. But whatever you've got at home, anything that tastes remotely like soy sauce would be a great marinade for your tofu. So I'll go ahead and get that set up off camera, and then I'll be back to make the sauce. Okay, so I've got everything here set up to make the peanut sauce. I've got a nice cup here. It has a little spout. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make the sauce in here. It'll be really easy to pour over the bowls. You can also make it in a mason jar. That's one of my favorite cooking tools because you can just shake it up and it's ready to be stored. Or you can just make it in a bowl, whatever works for you. But I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So first I'll measure out the peanut butter. So for making this sauce for 2 people, it'll take about ½ a cup of peanut butter. So there's definitely plenty of peanut flavor in this sauce, and that'll give it its really creamy texture as well. Now, some people aren't a huge fan of using peanut butter just because it can be a little higher in saturated fats, which are not the best for our heart when we're eating a lot of saturated fat every day or just really often. But I would say in this recipe, I think we're balancing everything out with, we've got some healthy vegetables in there, some whole grains if we use our brown rice noodles, which I'll show you. And really there's nothing to be too concerned about with peanuts. But if you are worried, you could always substitute with maybe almond butter. That's definitely gonna change the flavor a little bit, but you might discover something new and maybe an almond butter sauce is even better than peanut butter sauce. But I just love the flavor of peanut sauce, and you know, I'm not eating this every day, and peanut sauce is still, or peanut butter rather, is still a great ingredient, and it can definitely be part of a healthy diet. You just don't want to be eating scoops of it every day. But you know, dietitians, we love just sharing with people that anything is okay in moderation, and it's important to have variety in our diets anyways. So, like I said, peanut butter, it's a great ingredient. I love it. And so I'm just trying to get every last bit out of this measuring cup into my pouring cup, I guess you could say. So I've got my peanut butter here. Next up, I will go ahead and measure out the tamari, or if you want to use soy sauce, if that's what you use at home, that's totally fine. So this is going to take about 2 tablespoons. So let's see, measure out about 2 tablespoons. Now I like using the low sodium version of this just because I find if I get the full regular version with the full amount of sodium in it, it is almost too salty for my liking. And also a lot of times products like that, when they are full sodium, they're really high in that salt. And so that's not necessarily the best for our health. Eating excess sodium is a pretty common I guess, problem in the American diet, and it has led to a lot of hypertension, or in other words, high blood pressure among Americans. And so we want to try to educate people on different ways to decrease sodium intake. So one of those ways is picking low sodium products like that tamari. So that's a little tip for you. And then next up, I've got a 1/4 cup of water. I'm just gonna go ahead and dump that right in. And then we'll do the vinegar next. So I've got rice wine vinegar here, and this takes about a tablespoon, I'd say. You can add a little more if you like more tangy flavor in your sauce, which sometimes I do, but today I'm just gonna go for a tablespoon. Measure that out. And then finally, we have the maple syrup. That's the last thing I'll measure. And I'm just gonna do about a tablespoon, maybe a little extra, just because I like my sauce to be a little sweet. And then that's everything that we need to measure. So the last thing I've got here is just my ginger that I already cut up ahead of time. I'll dump that in there. It'll add a really nice flavor. And that's the sauce. So I'll just grab a fork out of here. You can use a whisk if you want, just anything that has little things to mix it all up. I'm just going to stir this as best as I can, and then we'll have our peanut sauce. So it takes a little bit of time just to get that peanut butter all nice and mixed in pretty evenly. It kind of wants to separate from the liquid because it is more fatty, and fats and oils don't really like water and liquidy things, but if you mix it enough, it'll get all nice and emulsified, and it'll be just one smooth, creamy sauce. Now, if you had peanut butter that was a little, I don't know, older or just thicker for some reason, you might need to add a little more water just to thin out the sauce to your liking, but what I've found is a 1/4 cup of water usually is enough to thin it out. All right, so I'll just stir this a little more before I serve it, but I've got my peanut sauce ready to go, and I'm excited to put the bowl together. Okay, so now you'll see that we are going vlog style. We're switching it up a little bit. So I just wanted to show you what I've got going here. It is my brown rice noodles. Now you'll see on the little nutrition facts panel, as a nutrition nerd, I love looking at this, but most people probably don't. But you'll see here, dietary fiber, there's 2 grams of fiber in a serving. Now that's not a ton, but you'll notice that I did get the brown rice noodles, whereas if you get the white rice noodles, they may not have any fiber at all. So I'm always looking for ways to sneak in some fiber into my diet, and so I thought that the brown rice noodles would be a great way to go. So I'm just gonna cook these noodles according to the package directions. So I've got my boiling water, dump that in there, and they're only gonna cook for a couple minutes. And then I'll go ahead and drain it, and I'll be ready to assemble my bowl. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I have got everything ready to make my delicious noodle bowl. I've got my brown rice noodles, my marinated tofu, and then some different veggies and toppings, and of course the creamy peanut sauce. So to begin, I'll just get a big old scoop of noodles here and try to transfer them semi-neatly, and maybe just one more bit there. Okay, so got lots of delicious brown rice noodles. That fiber in the noodles that I showed you is going to help keep us full, but then to even boost the nutritional value of the meal even more, I've got some delicious plant-based protein here, and that is my tofu. So you'll see it's a little bit darker because I marinated it in that tamari sauce, so that'll give it some flavor. I cut up about half of the I guess tofu that came in the package, and so that's probably a good serving for 2 people. Now if you wanted everything to be served hot, you could definitely cook the tofu once it's marinated, especially if you put a little bit of cornstarch on it. I found that helps get it a little bit crispier, but I just went ahead and threw it on there raw. Totally fine to eat that way. And so then I'm going to place some delicious red bell peppers over the top. Really don't need to make it too fancy, however you like it. We do eat with our eyes, so I like to at least try to make my meals a little bit presentable. But if you're in a rush, you can throw it all together real quick and it'll still taste super delicious. So I'm just gonna sprinkle some nice orange carrots over there, and then the snow peas as well. So I love using a variety of colors in my meals just because it makes it a little more fun to eat and more appealing to the eye. I'm gonna break up these snow peas a little bit just because it's easier to eat that way. And I already sampled one of them. They're super sweet and delicious, so that's just gonna really balance out kind of the saltiness of the tamari and the peanut flavor or peanut butter in that peanut sauce. And then, so I think that's probably pretty good for the veggies. I'm gonna stir this sauce up one more time and then drizzle it over the top of my bowl. Get a nice amount there. I want lots of flavor to this delicious meal. And then just to top it all off, you can't get enough peanuts and peanut flavor. So I'm going to add a few unsalted peanuts. They're just roasted, unsalted, and they taste really great, but they are not adding all that extra sodium. So like I said, trying to avoid the high blood pressure here. So unsalted peanuts is the way to go. This is what my final bowl looks like. Very colorful underneath the peanut sauce, but I'm so excited to eat this. It's gonna taste amazing. So I encourage you to check out this recipe. If you want the full PDF download of the recipe card, it's on our blog. You'll also find on the blog post some extra information about how to cook this recipe and also some nutrition facts there. So go on over to healthyaltitudes.com to find all that great content. And keep on looking out for new recipes. They're coming your way, and there's plenty of other recipes that are already up there as well. So check it out. Thank you guys.